It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show! Hey there, everybody. This is the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
And please welcome back Liz Newman.
Yay! Hello, everybody.
Yay.
Yeah. I may have forgotten how to do this.
That's all right. We have
It'll come to you.
You believe it.
Are we talking about podcasting or are we talking about talking?
The babble. No, I could probably still do that.
I bet we'll be all right.
Yeah. I have like weeks worth of stuff, guys.
It's good because I didn't bring nothing.
Nothing.
You can take it away. It's the Liz Show.
Yay! Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da.
Well, since the spotlight's already on you, go ahead.
Oh, man. Well, once again, you guys will probably hear me say this again, but I'm sorry. I've just had a string of bad luck for 2020. So if somebody could burn some sage for me, or I don't know. I keep saying it can't get any worse, but
You gotta stop saying
I
that.
said that. Right. And then I fell asleep one night and I forgot to put my mouth guard in. I hate it. I can't breathe in this thing. You know, I've told him that before. It gags me. Well, I wind up grinding my teeth and I cracked my tooth right at the root. So I go in, you know, I wait till I can get the time off to go in, you know, because I don't want to make the moms miss their work. And that was almost a week to get in. And he was like, oh, no, we're going to have a surgeon do this because you cracked it right at the root. There's no way for us to pull this without breaking it. So, ta-da! Yeah. Plus, at that point, when I went in, they told me my blood pressure was at, I think they said it was like 193. So they're like, are you okay? Should we call someone for you? And it's like, well, I'm in a lot of pain.
Yeah, I'm a little stressed about this tooth thing, but otherwise I'm fine.
Right. Plus, I'm in a doctor's office, which is a dentist on top of that. So, yeah, I'm a little stressed. Yeah. Just a little. I said, but I'm fine. Really, I'm fine, you know. So I get home. I take all my medicines and stuff and chill out. So when I was able to go back a week later, so that's 2 weeks that I can't eat, I can't talk, because it was my canine, the one that sticks up and hits everything. So couldn't eat, couldn't talk for about 2 weeks there before I finally went in and had them cut it out of my mouth. And that's what I told them. I want it gone. Oh, we can do a post or we can do a... No. 2 weeks of pain, get it out. So, yeah. So that Sunday, I did that on was it Friday night? Yeah. So I did that on a Friday. Sunday, I probably could have done the show, but Phil told me I sounded like a squirrel. That I had my cheeks stuffed full, so it was like, maybe not.
That would have been entertaining as hell, but you know.
Spitting all over and doped out, you know. So I appreciate you guys being so patient, and, you know, like I said, it was pretty bad. And that was after being sick, and then my back went out, and then I broke my tooth. It's like, can I go to sleep till 2021, please? But in that time, I had a lot of downtime. Now, some of this stuff I'm going to have to go back and watch again because it's kind of a haze. But one of the things I watched, though, was a docuseries on different strokes. Reels is doing, I guess they do all the biographies and stuff on there, but they kind of broke it down, like what happened to Gary Coleman and Dano Plato and Todd Bridges. I mean, it was just really, really sad, which of course made me sad because it's like, as child stars, we kind of unknowingly, we use these kids up. We use them for entertainment, but when the laughs are gone, it's kind of like they've grown up in front of a camera. They don't know how to handle real life, And like for Dana, it was just a little too much for her, And then sometimes in order to cope with pain, they wind up self-medicating. And like I said, that was probably her downfall there. She could just never break the cycle, and nobody really wanted to work with her after Diff'rent Strokes because she had kind of been typecasted in that role, so she couldn't really go on and even do anything better. So I thought that was all kind of sad, and a lot of that I didn't know. I knew a lot about Gary Coleman's health issues and that kind of stuff, but I didn't realize how sick he was when they were recording all of that. And then he had like 2 kidney transplants during that time and a bunch of medications and even sub-medications that he probably shouldn't have taken just so he could work. That's sad. And then when he gets done with it, for him, what was sad is his parents wound up spending like almost all of his money. So here he's worked all of his life, been sick, trying to do something so he could set himself up good, and it's gone. And that's when he got the job as the security guard, and even then people wouldn't leave him alone, and it was kind of sad and a lot of mysterious around his death. And yeah, like I said, I thought, oh, this is going to be fun. Oh, it was so depressing. It's like, damn. Another thing I got to watch, though, that we've talked about before, and I'm just now getting around to watching it, is the new Twilight Zone series. Somehow, I wound up with CBS All Access. I guess I'm paying for that. But
was that from the illness haze thing?
I
guess so. I didn't know we had that.
That and the canned bread.
Right. I should have baked some while I was watching this. I liked it. I know a lot of people are like, the original was kind of political. This one is a little bit more politically charged than I would say the last ones were, but they still follow the same formula of, good story, big twist, moral ending. But my favorite one so far was the 3rd episode. I think there's only 10. I don't know if this is an ongoing or if there was just 10 episodes that they did for this. But on the 3rd one, Glenn from The Walking Dead is on there. And it was kind of a different story. And like I said, this is one that I'll definitely have to go back and watch because I remember watching it, but I didn't understand the ending of it. So I think there's something to do with an alien. So I may need to go back and rewatch that one too.
And it might not help. Who knows?
Right? And I might go, damn, this wasn't even the Twilight Zone. Now, I'm pretty sure it was the Twilight Zone. Or I was in it, or, something like that. But the last show that I got into was Lock and Key on Netflix. Wow, that is really, really good. I think I talked about it before it came out because, Joe Hill really pushed this on Twitter and everything else, and it's been really good. The effects, the story, just the whole thing for me is just hit it right out of the park. It's one of those, I think the episodes are 45 minutes long, but it's kind of one of those when you get to the end, it's like, oh man, I've got to watch the next one because I want to know what happens, so he always leaves it like that. So I'm glad super, super glad that when this went over to Netflix, that they were able to grab Joe Hill in and write this for television. So we're getting the story as he imagined it, just with, like I said, the effects on it so far have just been amazing. So yeah, like I said, it's a lot of good stuff on TV right now.
Cool.
Yep. But one last thing. Well, this is for you guys too, though.
Just one more thing.
Yeah, one more. Jimmy Palmiotti? Palmiotti. I keep saying his name wrong. He posted a question on Twitter the other day, and it kind of made me think. He asked, do you buy comics based on, and he said character or creator / talent, or a little bit of both. And it kind of got me to thinking. It was like, wow. So I know my answer. What would you guys' answer be on that one?
Given the majority of what I read, it's often more creator based than anything else, because I'm reading mostly indie stuff. So I'm not buying stuff. I mean, there are cases where I'm buying something because it's a continuation of another story from the past where the character was interesting, but generally speaking, it's the creators.
Mm-hmm. Thomas?
I was waiting for Les.
Oh.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Les.
Mine is a mixture. There are particular characters I read, but if a creator comes in, a new creative team comes in to a series, I've been known to jump, or add, I should say.
Yeah.
Right now they've got the Strange Adventures series going, and I'm intrigued by it. So I will stick this. I think it's a year-long series, and I'll stay with it. But it's mainly, yes, the character, but the pairing of writer and artist is really good. So
yeah.
I'm kind of like Les. It's a mixture. I mean, yeah, the creators play a part, but also the characters play a part. So there may be times where I'm not reading a book, even if it's one of my favorite characters, because I don't like the creative team, or I just don't like the storyline that's going on. And then there's some of my favorite creators that I may not exactly like the story that they're presenting. So I may not get that. So
yeah. So that was me too. I'm a bit of both. There's lines I'll always pick up, like Batman. Even when I was like, oh, I'm gonna quit reading this sucks. What is he doing? I still picked it up. I guess one out of habit because it's Batman, but I also have been known to read things that I wouldn't normally read because of the creative team behind it. I think I read Deadpool because Scotty wrote it. I mean, so I think I'm definitely a bit of both. But I had never really thought about it until he kind of threw it out there, and it was kind of like, what does make me pick the comics that I do? Yep, that's all I had. Not much.
Wait for it.
Just
one more thing. No. Just a reminder to everybody to be kind to one another. That just a couple of weeks ago we loved each other, and we still should. Just at a distance.
Other people in the world need to wipe their asses too.
Exactly. And I hate to go off on the rant again, but babies need formula, not grown-ass adults. So get a grip, people. So
Yes, please.
that's it. Love you.
Okay, I love you. Bye-bye.
Stay safe.
All right, Mikey.
Oh, me, right. Yeah, I get to follow that for a change. But honestly, I kind of wasn't kidding. I don't have a whole lot this week because this week has been, well, and I'm not going to be alone in saying this, this has been an impressively weird week because of all the stuff. I have unfortunately allowed the real world to encroach upon mine.
Don't you hate when that happens?
Oh God, it's stupid. It's just so stupid.
Like,
the real world is
reality.
Hey, it's just, yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I spent the end of last week kind of mentally preparing myself for something that I never thought would ever happen.
Right.
Me getting to, they have split up where I work. They've split everybody sort of into two groups, and these groups are going to take turns working at home for a week, to kind of limit the number of people who are in the office all at once. So yeah, I'm in the first group. So this week, the week we just had when y'all hear this, because here we go with the time travel weirdness again. Yeah, it's a little strange, which is also good because my kids' school extended spring break for another week. So something weird was going to have to happen, but fortunately now I have to work from home anyway, so he can stay home with me. Yay!
Yay!
Not particularly looking forward to this, but there will be raised voices at some point during the week. I'm guaranteeing that.
Yeah.
That's all right. It'll be fine. Better than the alternatives.
I think what's been so crazy about this is it's like every day it's just worse and worse and worse. It's like, golly, you can't turn it off, and I know the media is stirring the pot right now, but a lot of times you're like, well, I need to know what's going on, but.
Well, and part of the deal with the getting worse every day thing is that if you kind of look at the numbers with this sort of thing, because it's not like this is the first time this has ever happened. We have had this happen before, and if you kind of look at the numbers, it's really bad the first few weeks. And for a couple of weeks, it will get worse every day. And then eventually that'll sort of plateau and it'll start creeping back down again. And everything will be fine.
Right.
It's just, we're kind of looking at it from the inside for a change. And so it's easy to see it in a pile of statistics over there happening to somebody else.
Right.
When it's happening to us, it's a very different experience. People don't know how to handle it.
No. And I think part of what's causing the confusion is we don't know a lot about it. We know a lot about the flu. We know we can go get something before it gets too bad or stay at home if it doesn't. With this, we didn't know a lot,
Well, we've had the flu for a
kind
century.
of like when the West Nile. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
We have not had this particular
like
strain of coronavirus. I mean, and it's not, honestly, they keep making a big old deal out of it. This is not the reason they call it coronavirus is basically because of its appearance. It looks like a crown. That's why it's the coronavirus. Not because it comes from Mexican beer or anything.
What?
Because if you look at it under an electron microscope, it has a very crown-like appearance. That's all it is. I mean, they've even given the disease a name separate from the virus. And they're honestly, from what I'm understanding, from what I've been hearing, speaking of which, if anybody is interested, I don't overtly plug other people's podcasts very often, but there is a podcast called Ologies. Last week's episode was on the coronavirus. It is very informative. If you are curious, check it out. That's Ologies, Ologies. Anyway, the hell was I saying? I distracted
It's been
myself.
a weird week.
Something
That was
you
what you were
heard.
saying.
Oh yes, the disease itself, the COVID-19. There's been a lot of comparison to the flu, but that's mainly because that's the primary viral infection that people get anymore, because the flu is such a weird and diverse strain of viruses.
Yeah.
But that's actually not the best comparison. The better comparison is partly because it is basically a variation on the SARS virus. So it's actually more like SARS with a couple of minor little differences, but it's more similar. The virus itself is more similar to the virus that causes SARS than it is to the flu virus. So something to think about.
Yeah.
A lot of people won't know what that means either, but you got to start somewhere with these things.
I found out what SARS was when they said that Johnny Depp had caught it twice when he cut his finger. Well, he didn't cut his finger, but
Cut his finger.
I won't go
air
there.
Quote, big time air quotes on cut his finger. Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was like, what is that? So, and after looking it up, I'm kind of glad I didn't know what that was.
Yeah,
It's like, don't Google the symptoms. Damn, why did you Google the symptoms?
Why would you do that to yourself? Dang.
Oh, man.
Yeah, well, if Johnny Depp was the celebrity face of SARS, Tom Hanks gets to be the celebrity face of the coronavirus. So there we go.
Right. And once again, he's quarantined with a Wilson.
Uh-huh. There are so many potential tacky responses to that. But anyway, no, it is unfortunate that his wife Rita has also contracted the virus.
It is.
Yeah.
But I don't want to sound like I'm totally unempathetic because, like I said, it sucks. Anybody who gets this stuff sucks. But if somebody told you, hey, a lot of people are getting sick right now because they're traveling to places where this has been, would you hop on a plane and go, oh, let's go to China and lick doorknobs? I mean, you're going to stay away from China, or you're going to stay away from Italy right now, or, and it's, yeah, it's like, well, you kind of played Russian roulette there. You hopped on a plane and you went somewhere where, a bunch of people were sick, and, oh, wow, you got sick? Really? So, like I said, it sucks. Anybody who gets this stuff, it just sucks. So, I'm not saying I'm glad he's got it, or,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying I won't be hopping on a plane anytime soon, private jet or not,
Yeah.
I think when they told us to stay home, don't talk to too many people, it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, what else am I supposed to do that I don't already do?
How often is it so easy to self-quarantine? I mean, geez.
Right. Or how often do they tell the public to be like us?
Doesn't happen very often.
These are good people. Not weird at all.
Next.
Les, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I don't have much to add myself. I got a little disappointed this week. I was counting on the new season for arena football to start. It got shut down real quick.
Yeah.
Just like all of the other sports in the area. It's amazing to me that all of the leagues have shut down, including teams that won't even play for another 4 to 6 months.
Now, I'm not into sports, but has this ever happened before?
Not to this extent, no.
Wow.
Yeah, not like this.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. I mean, the whole idea here is to, again, with self-isolation, we're trying to avoid having reasons to get thousands of people in one place.
Right. Well, it's what they keep saying. We're flattening the curve. We're trying to prevent before it happens.
Yep, trying to keep that peak from getting so big.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because we don't want to overtax the already overtaxed healthcare system.
Yeah.
You know, the first responders, doctors, and nurses, and all that.
Well, and I hate to bring the gloom and doom, but my anxiety, I've thought about this at least 50 million times. But like with the flu, we have so many strains of the flu come along that after so many people get it, it's almost like the virus itself mutates into a different strain, into a more super, they've even called it the super virus at one point. And that's what scares me when not so many people are taking this. It may not be bad now, but you get thousands of people. We could get a super virus out of this, something we can't treat anymore, or something we don't know about. Or, it's just, oh. Let me take a happy pill. That's what I'm scared of, is that it's been such a joke that not enough people are taking it serious to where I think this is going to be worse.
People take it
Almost.
seriously in different ways is the problem. And if we could all kind of do it the same way, it would work a lot better.
Yeah.
But you're never going to get that many people. I mean, you're never going to get that many people to agree on how they should respond to it. They're just going to freak out.
Well, not to respond, but you go on Facebook and half the people talking are saying it's a hoax. It's kind of like, people, go to Italy right now and tell those people quarantined by martial law that it's a hoax, that it's in their head, that this isn't, they're not really sick,
There is a video out there, and I was actually talking to my mother about this last night, and I saw it from the Now This website, although it was I think it was on her Twitter account. There is a video of a guy from in Italy. He's recording. He's got the February 8th newspaper, and he's opened up and he's flipping through the pages. There is a page and a half of obituaries.
Golly.
Then he gets to the one from March 13th, which, as we're recording, it was only a couple of days ago. And he's flipping through the pages. There are 10 pages, full pages of obituaries.
Yeah.
There was over 300 people that died today in Italy.
Yeah. 388. But it's a hoax. Those people really weren't sick.
Yeah, it's a joke.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's where half the problem's coming from right now. And I think now people are getting sick, and you could almost see the panic set in, especially at the grocery stores,
Well, I think that it's both. Some people are dealing with it by joking. They don't believe it, and they want to, and I guess their defense mechanism is to make all these jokes, and it irritates the hell out of me, because I am concerned. I'm not panicking, but I'm very concerned. Then you have these that are just the sky is falling, so we've got, you got to grab all the toilet paper and hand sanitizers, and then of course I'm sure you saw the story about the brothers that hoarded all the hand sanitizers. I believe it was in Tennessee. I'm sure y'all saw about that. Just before we started recording, it was coming out that the Attorney General and all that has basically confiscated all that and are forcing them to donate all that to charity.
They should.
Cool.
I mean, who would want to make a profit off of people suffering right now? I mean, you know, and
It happens all the time. Have you not heard of the term war profiteer?
yeah, yeah.
I
mean, it's basically big farm too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and there's that too. So yeah.
But yeah, see, I think during this time, people need to keep their heads together. Remember that we're a community, and to get through this, it's going to take all of us. You know, if, like, I have elderly neighbors that I'll go and check on and make sure that they've got food and they've been taken care of. I'm not going to, you know, steal their toilet paper from them. And see, that's what sucks, is it's people like them. They can't shop for a month at a time. They're doing good to buy weekly groceries, and, you know.
And that's the thing that we all have to remember. If you think, hey, I'm not really at risk. I'm in good health, and I'm at this certain age and all that. You know what? The world doesn't revolve around you. There's others.
Mm-hmm.
So your cavalier attitude could get other people infected. It could be your loved ones. It could be your friends.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we're not talking about just older people, although that is the predominant one.
Right.
You know, I saw something also on Twitter about a father who's concerned about his 22-year-old daughter who's already has health issues. She's vulnerable.
She is.
Yep.
And seeing people with their kids, they're like, oh, my kid can't get sick. Well, yeah, but you're creating a little germ bomb. So, yeah, let's let your kid go out and play at the park and then send your little germ bomb to go visit grandma. You know, that's what people aren't understanding. That's how it's spreading. Keep your kids at home. Do what they're asking us to. You know, we don't want tanks and big concrete blocks in front of our homes like Italy has right now. Let's do what they're asking us to do and take the inconvenience and roll with it, you know. I'm happy to be at home. I don't want out there. But, you know, one thing I did hear, which was really nice, Frozen 2 just left the movie theaters. You know, that was one of Disney's big hits this year. And it's already on the streaming service. They put it up there this morning for all the kids who are going to be at home and everything else because of this virus. Do you know how much money they lost by doing that?
A lot.
All the DVD sales, digital sales, everything out the window because they put it up free on their, well, it's not free, but, you know, on their streaming service. So it's kind of like that's, now it may not be a lot, but it's compassion right now. That's what we all need to be doing, you know? Let's not think about ourselves. Let's think about everybody else and only take one bag of toilet paper. And leave the baby formula alone.
Right. You know what? There'll be more toilet paper on the shelves next week.
There will. But, you know, I tried to order baby formula off Amazon, and they basically laughed at me. They said there was no sellers that would sell that to me in this area.
You're saying the same thing about toilet paper, too, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. I have Walmart home delivery, right? I put an order in Thursday that I cannot get delivered until tomorrow morning. I'm crossing my fingers that what I had in my order is there, one of those things being baby formula. But after that, I went to put a second order in for midweek. I can't. There's no deliveries available for all next week, the week after. So it's kind of like, well, what am I paying for? But it's like, wow, this is crazy. I've never been able not to order something and get it the next day, you know, if not a few hours later.
Let's think about this, though. I mean, what does home delivery mean to you?
To me, it's before all this hit. To me, I have social anxiety. To where in a grocery store, I'm literally jumping out of my skin. So for me, I don't have to deal with that. I only have to deal with one person who I'm in the comfort of my own home, which I'm heavily harmed, but I'm in the comfort of my own home and I don't have to get out and face all of that or do all of that.
Right.
There's some days where honestly, I don't feel like making small talk,
And I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
But how does that stuff get to your house?
Actually, I think Walmart uses Uber. I think it's Uber. Matter of fact, it's kind of cool because since I use it like 3 or 4 times a week, I have the same driver. His name is Brian, and he picks up my groceries when he sees it's me and brings them to me. But to me, it means everything because I can't do that.
But
even if I didn't have kids.
Let's think about Brian for a second, though. I mean, his job, which I'm sure he needs, is to pick stuff up from various places and go show up at people's houses and get in their face and give them their stuff. I mean, the majority of the people who do that job have to do that job. But if you had a choice, would you do that?
I wouldn't. No.
Right. And
I couldn't do with seeing that many people.
And especially right now, when they're telling people to avoid other people. So
Walmart
my guess is they're having trouble finding people to make these deliveries at this point. That is my guess. Because people are...
Or there's just too many.
Exactly. Yep. People who wouldn't normally use that service are now trying to use that service at a time when they're actually probably trying to cut back on that service in order to keep their people safe. Yep. So it's a very nasty kind of vicious spiral type thing.
And, I totally get it. I do. But I know this is going to sound horrible and it's going to totally sound like privilege, and it's so not.
So let's keep in mind that literally 2 minutes ago you said we all need to suck it up and deal with the inconvenience.
Right.
So now go ahead.
We do. No.
But
typical for me, when I go into a place that has more than, I'll say, 5 people, average response that's going through my head, I automatically start scanning and I'm looking for all the exits. I want to know where my exits are. And then after I see that, I start getting that wom, wom, wom in my head. And my head starts telling me, get out, get out. You don't want to be here. Get out, get out, get out. And that's what I fight with to go out into like Walmart or so if I can avoid that, a mental breakdown almost, because it's exhausting. Your whole body's tense. You feel like you cry if somebody even says hello. It's exhausting. That's why for me, it was worth the $13 a month to where I don't have to put my body through that. Me and Brandon, we were supposed to go to Home Depot. I knocked on the door, said, "Hey, will you go with me?" "Yeah, sure." By the time I made it back to my room, which is right next to his, I made it back to my room to find my shoes. I had already talked myself out of it because I had played 100 scenarios in my head that it's people are fighting for this stuff. It's going to be crazy to where it's like, you know what? Forget it. I don't even want to go now. Not even a minute later, So that's why I use those kind of services.
Right.
Because I really honestly feel like I can't.
And my point here is not to delegitimize that.
Right.
I'm just pushing for a little consistency. That's all. Just keep in mind that your problem is not the only problem in here. That's all. And again, it's the same thing we've been talking about for the last 10 minutes. We have to just have to suck it up sometimes.
I didn't start doing this in the last couple of weeks, though. Right. I've had Walmart delivery service for months.
Agreed.
Probably almost a year now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like, So, but yeah, and I'm not upset. I sent Phil to the grocery store this morning.
Right.
So it's cool.
You found a way around it, and that's awesome.
I did. I found another Uber.
Uh-huh.
So I kind of did suck it up.
There you go. You found a way to do it, and that's the deal. That's actually what you were talking about like 4 minutes ago. We just have to figure out how to make it work for a little while. That's all. We might have to think a little harder in order to get what we need, and that's fine. As long as we're
And Uber or Walmart is offering curbside service, where you don't have to come into contact with the driver, and he doesn't have to come into contact with you.
And a lot of the grocery stores, a lot of the big chain grocery stores do something similar too. So, the curbside, So there you go.
So.
Before we get off topic here.
We haven't gotten to the topic yet. How can we be off topic?
No, actually, this is something my wife received by Facebook yesterday, and it was from a novel by Stephen Kuntz.
Horror writer, by the way.
Noted. I'm sorry?
Isn't he a horror writer?
Yes, but he dabbles in various storylines. And in this, he describes a pandemic outbreak, viral outbreak. This is a story that had the outbreak come from Wuhan, China. Talks about the spread of the virus.
Wow.
It talks about the cultivation of this virus. This book was written in 1981, I believe.
Wow.
Almost 30 years ago. And the
40
passages that they posted were so precise. It was scary.
Wow. Didn't they also say that Sylvia Browne had wrote something about this like years back too? Like down to the year 2020, virus is going to hit. And
that's very possible.
People have been doing that since Nostradamus. I mean, come on.
Right. It's just kind of eerie when they hit it. You know, like The Simpsons. My God, how many times has The Simpsons predicted the future?
Right. Exactly.
It's almost scary when they do something ludicrous because it's like, no.
Right, and they're just being
We
smart
don't need
asses.
R. Kelly as president. Yeah, that's wild though.
It was disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, a clock that doesn't work is right twice a day, right?
That's right. Well, on that note, we're going to wish y'all a good night and talk to you next week.
It's been fun.
Now that we're all good and depressed, jeez.
Yeah.
Didn't y'all miss me?
Damn straight.
We did.
Now follow that up, Thomas.
I did. That's why I just closed out the show.
Don't we have some plugs or something we have to do? I don't know.
Didn't we? Walmart? No. Hell, I wish they paid me every time I plugged them.
They can't afford to pay you every time you plug them. Especially if they're paying you for the positive and the negative.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'd probably break even. They take money back for the negative. And just send me my tea.
And some baby formula.
Yes. Golly.
Don't get
When you
started
think of
again.
people
No,
hoarding-
Yes,
no, we're not doing that again. No, we did that already. You already get that part of your routine.
I'm blown away. I'm just blown away. Humanity scares me.
You're just now realizing that?
No, remember we talked about that with the whole delivery service. I've been there. This just kind of confirms what I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much same boat with Mikey, although I've not been formally asked, but I'll probably be working at home for the foreseeable future for my job. So yeah, this is kind of an interesting time. It's a scary time. Don't need to be panicking, but you definitely need to be cautious. We were supposed to have had our monthly meetup last night, but we figured it was the wise thing to do, which is go ahead and cancel it. We may have one in April. We'll just see how things go here the next few weeks. Just keep monitoring the podcast and check the website and our social media. We may have one in April. We may not have another one till May, depending on how things go. We'll just see how it is. So, other than that, I picked up some reading material. I know I talked about this a few weeks back. I actually finally got the collection of the Inferno event from Marvel, the X-Men series, and I forgot. I knew it was dark, but I forgot how dark the series was. But I'm about maybe halfway through it, and it's been really good to kind of get into that again. I also picked up Spider-Man Epic Collection about mid-late 60s with Stan Lee still writing it and John Romita Sr. doing art. And God, I hadn't had a chance to get into it yet, but just flipping through and looking at the Romita art is just so good. I love his style. So a little bit of reading, but for the most part, it's been kind of just kind of dealing with the real world things. So definitely, y'all out there need to just take care of yourselves and take care of your friends and loved ones and neighbors and all that. Just kind of watch out for them as well. So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So for this week, we're gonna have something a little bit more lighthearted. March 24th, which is not too far away, will actually be the Fellowship's 10th anniversary. It's kind of hard to believe that we've been around this long. So I kind of figured for this week we would spend a little time kind of go over the origin of the group and kind of talk about our favorite moments and that kind of thing, and just have a little fun, just a nice little kind of reminisce and what you might like for us to do down the road or something like that, that kind of thing. So with that, I'll go ahead and if you're not familiar with how we started, it started back I guess early. I don't know. It's like late 2008, early 2009, somewhere around there. At that time, I was working for a different company, and every Wednesday night, like a lot of y'all do, went to my local comic book store to pick up the weekly books, and I'll go ahead and throw out the name. Unfortunately it's not around anymore. Called Comic Book Craze, and my buddies Joel Simca and Brandon Johnson would be there, running the store, and of course give me my books and kind of just chit chat about things that are going on, whether it's comics or anything else that was going on, or whether it's movies, TV, sports, what have you. And then eventually Les would show up about maybe 30 minutes later, something like that. That's how I met Les, was through the store and through Joel in particular. And we literally stayed there for a couple of hours until the store closed, and just had a good old time talking about anything. I mean, it was mainly comics, and it wasn't just like, okay, who would win in this fight between opponent A and opponent B. It was just, story arcs, maybe what was going on in the industry, that kind of thing. And we had a blast. And Joel would usually end every little gab session we would have, talking about, man, it would be really cool to kind of have this, have this recorded and have this out for the world to hear. And Les and I would kind of look at each other and go, yeah, okay, Joel, yeah, sure, whatever. All right, that's cool, yeah. But as late in 2009, my employment status had changed. So I had a little bit more free time on my hand, and I just started kind of thinking about what he was saying. If he said it enough that it actually kind of been drilled into my head, I guess.
It started to sound like a good idea.
And I was like, yeah, well, it's not like I had much else to do at the time other than, look at the want ads and all that. So I'm like, okay, well, what is our avenues to do this? And so, one thing led to another, and we eventually came up with the name Fellowship of Geeks. Yes, I know, really original, but hey, it works. So we basically kind of promoted ourselves, say, hey, come join us every Wednesday night and kind of talk about that. And at some point, I kind of conned Les into joining me, and we started doing, I'm trying to remember if it was I think it was every 2 weeks on Ustream. And
yes.
if you're not familiar with Ustream, it's a website. It's owned by IBM now, but it was a website where you can basically stream. For the most part, it was at that time was just people just kind of signing up in accounts and just kind of getting on there and just doing a chat with whoever they decide to hit that page and stay there long enough to actually kind of figure out what the hell's going on and kind of interact with the streamer. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. We were just doing this. And so we actually kind of came up with a format where, we would kind of talk about 2 or 3 news items that's going on in the comic industry and then have a main topic. And Mike, you were part of the chat room at times. I remember that, right?
Yeah, I got on there a few times.
And it was kind of fun. I mean, we were just kind of. It's kind of funny because if you knew me at the time, this doesn't sound like something I would have done. Were you kind of amazed that I did that, Mike?
A little bit. Of course, at this time, it never would have occurred to me to do it either. So
right. Yeah. So so we did this for a while, and then at a point it became weekly. And I'm trying to remember at what point it was, but we changed formats where we weren't using Ustream anymore. We were using Google Hangouts, and at that point, Mike joined in. And then, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we started doing Google Hangouts. I think it was just after I started, because we were having some weird technical issues with Ustream. We were having a hard time recording or broadcasting, and it was like regular for like a few. I'm going to use the word episodes here because I can't think of a better word for it.
Yeah, that's fine.
And so then we ended up just going. And actually, now that I'm saying this, I'm thinking it was because we started talking about actually recording them, because I don't think we were recording them on Ustream, were we?
It was this. They were kind of recorded. They were recorded.
Yeah.
But I had to actually convert them and then move them over to YouTube. And with the Google Hangouts, it's all tied together. So I mean, it automatically.
Yeah.
It was
going to be easier to do it on Google Hangouts.
It's going to be. The only thing with the Google Hangouts is I don't remember if it was actually being live. I think it was just something that we recorded. So it was Les, Mike, myself, and we were joined by a friend of ours, James Pickering, who was running a blog at that time. And was that weekly as well, or did we go back to bi-weekly? I can't remember now.
I think we did a little of both.
It may have been a little bit of both.
I think it was bi-weekly for a while, and then we tried weekly again, and then we ended up going back to bi-weekly or something.
Yeah.
It seems like we weren't always doing it every week.
Right. The format changed a little bit, but we were still kind of talking about comics and all that. So, and Mike had been brought on to do reviews for the website, but at this time, the website was up and going. And we started getting hit up to do comic book reviews, which kind of blew me away. That was something I never thought about doing. So we had the website, we were doing the reviews, and we were doing the show. And then at a certain point, I really got burned out. Because I was doing all of this. Except for, what Mike was assisting with the reviews and then being part of the show. I literally got burned out. So it's like something has to go. So we decided to stop doing the show. And, fast forward to, I guess it was late 2015 when I reached out to Mike and I kind of got the bug. I want to kind of do the show again. But we were discussing what should we do? Should we go back to doing the webcast again? Or should we transition over to doing podcasts? And Mike, I believe you were the one that said with the podcast we would have a better chance of better reach.
Yeah, bigger potential audience.
Big. And I was like, okay, all right. And then Mike agreed to help out. I didn't realize how much he would be helping out.
Me either.
Since he records, he edits, and he does a majority of the promoting on social or on Twitter. And thank you very much for doing all that. I do appreciate it.
Yes.
Yep.
For what it's worth.
So, and then we were like, okay, let's go ahead and do the podcast. And of course, we talked to Les, and Les was like, okay, well, as long as there's beer, I'm there.
A requisite.
You get paid in beer? Wait a minute.
No, he has to buy his own beer. But but given that we all record in our own little homes here, that way he doesn't have to drive home wasted. So it's all good.
Yeah, it's all good.
He can get as plowed as he wants.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rubber!
I agree with Daddy Johnson.
So March of 2016, the podcast debuted, and so we've been going for 4 years. And of course, a couple of years ago, that's going to be 3 years in November, Liz. 3 years.
Wow. 3 years.
Well, that makes it sound like a long time. Jeez.
That does. I started last week.
Well, it was November 2017, so I mean, is when you joined. And it's been fun. I've done a lot of stuff with this that I never thought of that I would be doing. There's times I still kind of kick myself going, you realize what you have been doing for the last 2 years, right? This is something that, 11 years ago, I would have said, yeah, right. No.
Yeah.
You're talking to the wrong person. That's not me. So it's been an incredible 10 years. It's been a fun 10 years. So with that, I'm going to step back, and I want to hear your favorite moments and memories for the last few years.
Yeah, remember that time we did that thing? That was awesome.
With the thing? That
was awesome.
That was too cool.
And then Les said that thing, and we all laughed.
Oh, yeah. That was red letter because that was the one and only time they laughed.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not true. We laugh at you all the time.
Hey, no, wait a minute.
As we're driving that bus.
You know, guys, I say this at the bottom of my heart with all the love in my heart.
Oh,
Fuck
Lord.
you.
That was sincere.
It was.
That
It
was.
heartfelt
I felt
right
that in
there.
my heart.
I felt it somewhere else. But anyway.
I told my wife what we were going to talk about tonight, and her response was, wow. She did not remember that it had been that long since we started.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, I'm broadcasting from the same site that Thomas and I began in our
Les's kitchen. Yep. Dining room.
dining room. Yeah. And I remember spending time in here and asking Thomas, what the hell have I done to my computer? What do I need to do? Thomas helped me through, but we had one of the most memorable people here to broadcast with us. And she was here for, I think, 2 times. Perkayla
Oh, yeah.
and her master were here. And the second time we had them here, we were discovering some things about Perkayla and the fact that she was trying out for a TV series concerning Stan Lee. What was it? So you want to be a superhero?
Who wants to be a superhero? Yeah. Yeah, she had actually been on the web series, because at that point there had already been two seasons of the show on Sci-Fi. So she had, yeah, I don't remember that because she got oh god, it was Doctor's. I can't remember.
Right. Exactly.
But he was the bad guy, and he had been. I guess she had contacted him, say, "Hey, I'm going to be on." So he was actually in the chat room, needling her all the time. And at some point, we just said, "Okay, call in." So he did, and she put him on speaker. So this is on the website. It's on the webcast page, and we'll put a link in the show notes for this if you want to check this out. Oh, it was a blast just having them going back and forth, and they talk about the series and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, you and I just got to sit back and listen.
We didn't have to do anything. I mean, yeah.
Yep, easiest show ever.
Yeah.
I haven't got to do a podcast with her, but I've had the pleasure of meeting Perkayla a couple of times, and just sweetest, funniest person ever. I mean, I don't think she's ever met a stranger, because she's the kind of person you meet and she automatically makes you feel like you're a friend, you know?
True.
Yeah, we haven't had her on since the podcast started. We probably need to rectify that here in the not too distant future. So
that'd be cool.
Might be fun.
It's been a few years since I've got to talk to her.
Yeah.
I think she did an appearance at Galaxy was the last time I talked to her.
Yeah, that's been a while too. So,
Mm-hmm.
that's been a couple of years. That's probably the last time I've seen her. I've kind of talked to her a little bit on Facebook, but it's been a while. So, yeah.
And I don't think I would recognize her without her makeup, though. You know,
Yeah.
every time I think I've met her, she was doing appearances. So,
Okay.
Yeah, see, it's funny that you mention as part of the origin story that you had recently been out of a job, because that's actually how you managed to drag me into this, as I recall. I had just gotten laid off at the beginning of 2012,
Yeah.
and yeah, I had been sort of lurking in the chat room a little bit for a few months before that, and so I get laid off and I come home and I'm like, for a couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden you kind of out of the blue popped up and said, hey, you want to write reviews for the website? And I was like, well, this is one of those things I never would have thought of myself doing, but yeah, I mean, if nothing else, I figured, hell, it'll give me a little practice writing again. I hadn't done that in a while because the job I was doing before that wasn't writing.
but you and Thomas have been friends for like forever, right?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Like literally forever.
Yeah.
Since like the dawn of time. Yeah, no, we met in high school. So yeah, that would have been mid '80s.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And so yeah, and then one thing leads to another, and all of a sudden I'm on this webcast thing, and again, never had any idea what that was. I mean, it was the beginning of the streaming thing.
Yeah.
The very beginning. And podcasts were around, but I honestly can't remember if I was even listening to them at that point yet.
Yeah.
I might have just started. So I was probably aware of what they were, but never would have dreamed. I mean, my response at that point would have been, I don't have anything to say.
Right.
Now y'all can't shut me up.
I was like, people want to listen to me?
It's weird, isn't it? I never
Can
would have
someone
thought so
tell that
either.
to Phil?
Been doing this for over 2 years. We just talked about this. Clearly somebody does, even if it's just the three of us. But yeah, so interesting. Interesting that that's how it all started, was kind of the same way.
Yeah.
I had forgotten that you had been laid off, and I said, hey, since you don't have anything else to do, how about this?
Yeah, because I think that's probably where it started. Was we were talking or chatting or something, and you just sort of said something, and I ended up saying, well, what the hell? It's not like I'm doing anything else right now. And so you said, hey, well, here, let me send you these comics. You can write a couple of reviews on them. I'm like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tried it out and did that for quite some time, really.
Mm-hmm.
And it all led to this.
See, I found you guys by like total, complete accident. I mean, I've talked a lot about my brother-in-law, Sean. We were comic book hopping. I never found a place where I could go into and they were like, Liz, when you walk through the door.
Clearly you've been watching Cheers reruns too much. But anyway.
Right.
Oh, God.
But there was a few places that we liked, but as Sean got sick, they just made us feel uncomfortable. Like he wasn't welcomed there. And I remembered, I said, you know what? Fuck them. You know, why am I going to pay somebody money to treat us like trash? You know, well, why? And I said, I think I remember there was a comic book store on the other side of Garland. And we don't rarely go on that side of Garland and everything. Not like it's a bad side of Garland. But when we went by there, the comic book store we were looking for was actually closed. And it was like, fuck. we're going to have to go back to one of those asshole places.
Typical.
And he was like, no, I know there was a comic book store over here. And I'm like, yeah, Sean, look, they've got a note on the door. This building has been locked out. Everything was still inside this comic book store. You know, shelves, comic books, everything. It's like, Sean, I don't think they're opening back up. So I missed my turn. And so I drove through the parking lot and we saw, God, I don't know, was it a Batman poster or something? And it was like, hey, there's people in there. Let's ask them if they know what happens at the comic book store. Well, when we get out, that's actually when I met Thomas. And he was, they were setting up Galaxy, or what would later be called Galaxy. And, you know, they're not open, but I think Thomas sat there and talked to me and Sean for, golly, like an hour. And then, of course, James came out and I heard his story and why he was opening the store and everything else, and talked to him for at least another 30 minutes, an hour, you know. And we made a point to go to the opening of the store. And like I said, I talked to you for a little bit, but from day one when I walked in, Thomas saw me walk in the store and he's like, hey, Liz. And I was like, Liz, you know my name. You can't get rid of me now. And that was our home. I mean, it was our home for, golly, how long were you there, Thomas?
We were there 4.5 years.
4.5 years. So, and, you know, kind of like you were saying with the comic book store, actually, that we were looking for, I guess, is where the podcast started, or fellowship started.
Yeah, that's how, it was at that store.
Yep. So, you know, I think I happened to meet Les on opening day, and, you know, just very warm, welcoming, you know, like I said, I didn't feel like he was a stranger, because I told you guys, I'm like totally socially awkward. I hate going into places and talking to people, but talking to you two, it felt normal. I felt normal. You know, I didn't feel like I had to be this bubbly, happy person if I didn't want to be. And, you know, you guys just kind of accepted that. And running joke, anything Les puts in my hands, I'll buy, because he knows what I like to read. And he just, I would have to say that about anybody who walked into that store. It's like he had this gift of being able to read people and be like, hey, you'd be interested in this. And I would say like 99% of the time he was right. You know, it was dead on of what the people wanted and, you know, what they were looking for. So that was kind of, you know, my walking Wikipedia.
And you only had to go to your house and go through your mail for a couple of weeks to make that happen, you know.
Right.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, rummaging through your trash was tough, but we got it done. No, thank you. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. And I think both you know, all of you guys have been there when, I mean, goodness, Les, you've given me a shoulder before when I didn't know what the hell I was going to do, and some pretty sound advice. And, you know, Thomas, you've always been a great friend, and I feel like I can tell you anything, and we talk about anything. And, you know, of course, then you guys introduced me to Mikey, and I feel like I've known him forever now too. And, you know, just the way we all mesh and we can joke around with each other, and, you know, all different backgrounds and everything else, but it works. it works.
Now I feel like I'm the weird friend who records everything you say. But anyway.
No, I actually, when I first started, I had to make a point especially with our picks. We read a lot of the same stuff. So it's kind of like, oh man, you know, it's Image night. You better pick another title because Mikey has probably already picked this one out. So it's kind of, you know, we have a lot in common that way too. So like I said, I'm glad to call you a friend. So, and like I said, I was honored whenever I was asked to be a part of this, and like I said, it was kind of weird because it's like nobody wants to listen to what I have to say. Half the time I don't want to listen to what I'm saying.
I still tell myself that every week, so,
Right. Well, and then it is kind of, it kind of touches your heart when one of your friends or something is like, hey, last week, what did you mean when you said that? And it's like, wait, what? You remembered what I said, and I don't even know what the hell I was talking
Holy crap, somebody is listening to this.
about. But a lot of times I forget that it's not just us shooting the shit, I think that's most of what our pre-show is, right?
Oh, that's entirely what our pre-show is.
So,
And that's okay, too.
and I'd have to say that's probably my favorite part of the podcast is our pre-show. Everything you guys miss out on. No, because I think a lot of it comes into the show from our pre-show. So
It's one of those deals like, if you've ever, and a lot of people have not, but if you've ever been to like a live studio audience recording like a sitcom, I mean, if you don't live in California, you probably don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but they actually have like a pre-act. They bring in somebody, a comedian of some sort, to come in and warm up the audience. And
That's
so
right.
they stand out there telling jokes and getting them laughing.
Yeah.
Basically getting them all in the right frame of mind and in the right mood to then come out and record the show.
Right.
So they'll be more likely to laugh when something happens. But
Right.
that's all right.
Yeah.
And our pre-show is kind of the same way, except we do our own jokes
yeah,
or rants in some cases. But that's okay too. That's just real life coming in. It's all good.
yeah.
I don't know who you be talking about there.
I have no. I'm not naming anybody specific. I'm not naming names.
Uh-huh. Okay. That's fine.
I've had a lot of fun. But if I have to say a favorite show that we've done,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of a toss-up. And one of them was our interview with David Pepose. Before any interview, I'm always like, oh my God, I don't know what to ask these people. I really don't know what to ask these people, But when he came on, he knew exactly what he wanted to say to where there wasn't a whole lot of ask me questions. It was more, let's talk about what I'm doing, and it just smooths rolling. I mean, when it was over, it was kind of like, wow, we've really been talking this long. So.
Oh yeah, the best interviews are the ones where you don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
And I say that it's a very selfish attitude as an interviewer to say that, but we do a few interviews a year, to be honest.
Yeah.
They do dozens, if not hundreds.
Especially before a launch.
Right, when they're launching something, and because they're launching multiple things a year sometimes, they're doing interviews all the time. They are way more experienced at interviewing people than we are.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's most of the time, it's just a matter of getting them wound up, and they'll go off on their own. It's one of those things where I for the same reasons that you were talking about, I kind of don't like interviews. But they turn out to be our best episodes in a lot of cases because
they do.
The people, we've been really lucky in that the people we've gotten to interview have been really good at being interviewed, and so they carry us most of the time because we are
like Madeline.
We are very not professionals. We are very amateur in what we do, and I mean I generally try to tell people that right up front when we're interviewing them. We get on the call and I'm like, okay, keep in mind we're not professionals. We're going to have to do blah, blah, blah to make this, and it'll sound good. It'll sound fine when we get there.
Yeah.
And they're usually cool with it, and they're like, okay, no problem. And you ask a couple of questions, and you interject a response every so often as they're going, and man, they'll just talk themselves out. It's great.
And Madeline, she gives a good interview too.
Oh, yeah.
And seeing those, just like those two artists, you can definitely tell when they have a passion for what they're doing, because there wasn't a lot left to question.
Yeah, I mean, you hardly have to ask questions because they know what they're talking about. They do it all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and they're excited about it.
Yep. So I'd have to say that was, although I'm kind of like Mikey there. I always freak out when it's interviews
Me too.
or, like when we had Eddie on this show, great guy, funny guy, but I didn't know what to say. I kind of felt like you guys were friends and I was kind of like the little sister going, can I tag along?
Yeah, see, the great thing about...
But it went great, you know.
Well, and the great thing about Eddie is, I mean, that's really not an interview.
Yeah.
That's just,
Yeah.
he's coming on. I mean, he's kind of a guest host type thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not interviewing him. He doesn't have anything to plug.
Mhm.
And he's been podcasting for years too, so he knows the routine. He knows how to do this. Yeah, he's just blah 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 all day long. It's great.
And that's what made me comfortable, you know.
Mhm.
So once we got into it, it was like no big deal. And hey, I know
once-
Eddie.
Yeah, you get a few minutes in, and you hear them talk for a while, and you're like, oh, okay, this is how it's going to go, and then
Yeah.
it all works out great.
And I love turtles too, so it was awesome. And I also enjoyed, I don't know how many of our regular, did we do our horror show on our website, or was that only on All the Horror?
Oh no, we posted it as an episode.
Okay. I liked that too. That was different. That was really different. We had some technical issues here and there, but the guy we had on had me laughing. I couldn't even talk because I was laughing so hard. And I swear, every time I hear Vincent Price, I will hear that guy singing. So,
Yep, Scott did one hell of a Vincent Price impression. That's for
yes,
sure.
he did. And just
Well,
had me rolling the whole show, you know.
Anne was great too.
Yep.
Anne
yep,
was, yes.
Absolutely. That worked
She
out
was
beautifully.
hilarious. It did.
That worked out beautifully.
And see, and once again, that was kind of before show. It was kind of like, I don't know how this is going to work. You know, everybody has their own style. They have their own way of doing their own shows. But when it all came together, it was beautiful. It was funny.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And hopefully it came across in the recording. I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like it did.
But see, my deal is by the time we get, and I don't want to drag this in a weird direction, but by the time the show gets up and posted and is live, I don't want to listen to it anymore. I've already heard it 2 or 3 times.
We were there.
Right. I was there, and then I had to edit it.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I'm done. I don't listen to our show when it's live. I have done it, I think, once. Because it was early on, and I was like, okay, what does this really sound like? And so I listened to one, and I was like, okay, yeah, I can't do that anymore.
Yeah, to me, it's kind of weird to hear myself talk, though.
Oh, that never gets normal. That never stops being weird. We've been doing this
Do I
4
really
years, so-
sound like that?
Ah.
I didn't know I sounded like a little kid. So
You've kind of a high-pitched voice. That's all right. Your voice is not nearly as high-pitched as my wife's, so it's fine.
it's cool.
Yeah, your voice is not weird. My voice sounds really weird to me, but I know it's not really.
Yeah.
It took me 4 years to realize that, but I finally got there.
But I've really liked all of our shows. Now my favorite topic was Desilu, hands down.
I
didn't even have to. Yeah. Now that's the most memorable because I think Batwing made an appearance in like 10 shows.
I wonder why. I wonder who kept bringing it up.
Right. But you know, my dream interview for the show would be to actually have Scott Snyder come on here and kind of explain Batman to us a little bit. And maybe even apologize for some of the things I've said about him, you know.
Now that's how we pitch it to him right there.
Right.
Hey, we
But
want
you
you to
know-
come on our show so we can apologize for talking shit about you.
He should take that as a compliment, though, because if he didn't do so good, it wouldn't infuriate me so bad.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
it'd just be bad writing. You know, but
it's
it was
clearly not.
good.
Right.
Yeah, it was so good. But I didn't like where it went. You know, so
Well, and that's going to happen sometimes, and you know.
yeah. And then his son had the craniotomy, and I felt really horrible. So it was like, okay, I'm going to stop hating on Scott Snyder. And I had to let it go for Tom King, too. So. No, but I never want people to feel like I'm down on somebody, because like I said, if they didn't do a really good job, and if someone makes me angry or upsets me enough to where I feel like I have to talk about it, they've done a good job. You know, they've hit me at a nerve that, you know, bad writing or bad art couldn't do, you know.
Right, because the thing to do with bad writing and bad art is don't talk about it.
Right.
Don't give it the recognition.
Yeah.
That's how you deal with it. So I mean, even if we're trash talking something, it's generally because we love it or like it at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, he would be my dream interview, though.
That would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What's this? What's this? We would apologize. I don't remember how you apologize.
Well, you know, you guys were there.
I think there's a little royal we going on there, but that's all right.
No, you have to admit, during the Batman wedding, both me and Thomas were quite upset about that. It wasn't just me.
Yeah, but that's not Scott Snyder. That's Tom King.
It's Tom King, yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know.
See, I think the deal is
I don't remember being upset with Scott Snyder about it.
No.
I think the deal for Liz is that Scott Snyder would be like the big step towards Tom King. So we'd have to get them both, but we have to do Snyder first, so that she can kind of do her little apologies there and get warmed up for the big one, which would be Tom King.
Which would be Tom King. But see, he's cool with me now because he has a cool dog that looks like my dog, so. And he's even liked a few of my comments, so we're good with each other.
There you go. It's a start.
It's a start.
Not sure I'd call it a totally healthy relationship, but it's a start.
Right. But if anybody ever listened to our show, the one person I think that I would blush if I actually knew they listened to it would be Grant Morrison, because I've said some pretty bad things. It's a total love-hate there.
But from that same angle, with if it wasn't so good, it wouldn't piss you off so much.
Exactly. Right. And I probably own everything he's wrote, so.
Mm-hmm. Even if it's something you will never read again because it infuriated you, you've still got it because you don't get rid of anything. But anyway.
I'm a comic hoarder. I think his redeeming grace to me that kind of made me think, hey, maybe I need to relook at his work was Klaus. When he put that out and it was so good and was so different, it was like, okay, maybe I've judged his other work a little harshly. Everything but Multiverse. I will not apologize for anything I've said about Multiverse. I stand hard behind you. Shouldn't have to have a trade to explain your series, you know. Not even the series in a trade, but an explanation.
Right.
So
the introduction. Yeah, no.
For the 1,000th time.
That's rough.
In 3 years.
Yep. Maybe he's the one we have after Tom King.
Yeah.
In this series.
That would be, wow.
That would be awesome.
That would.
You said something interesting that let me go ahead and bring it to the rest of the class. How would you respond if you found out that a creator that you really liked their work just said, "Hey, you know, I've been checking out the show, and I think y'all are doing a great job," or "I like what you're all doing"?
I would probably, like on Twitter or something.
Yeah.
I would probably double down and say, "Well, come on the show and tell us what you think." Honestly, I mean, because that's kind of, yeah. I mean, why the hell not at that point, right?
Yeah.
They started it.
Right.
Why not?
I would totally die if Tim Burton heard my shameless ass kissing that I do for him weekly. I don't know if he's comic book creator though, but
who cares?
That would be mine. I would be like, wow, you know. Can I lick your brain now? Not a good opener, so he probably definitely wouldn't be on the show after.
No, you'd have to build up to that. But if you built up to it properly, I still think he'd be down for it.
Right. With as weird and awkward as I am, probably not.
Yeah, there would be no preamble to that at all. It would
That's
just, can I lick
saving
your
grace.
brain?
I would have his signature on a restraining order.
That's one way
Pride
to do
to
it.
my
Yeah.
collection.
Yeah, that'd be framed right in the middle of the wall right there.
Ooh. It's about to storm.
Oh, it's already over here pretty good right now, so I apologize to everybody who can hear that.
That adds to the character.
Yeah. All right, Les. Let's hear what you have.
I would enjoy it so much. I know that there are creators out there that can fill a segment just by themselves. None of us would have to ask a question. Just say, what do you think about, and then let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would be first stunned, but then I would be so happy to be able to speak with this person and just be friendly to them on a basis that would give me chills. They're just the opportunity would put me in shock. I would thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah.
And we've had some really good interviews as it is. And I think to bring it around again would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I would be stunned to if someone that I admire their work said, "Hey, I kind of like what y'all are doing. Keep it up." Yeah, I would probably be like Mike. Although I'd probably be a little bit more half jokingly than Mike would be. It's just, hey, well, why don't you come on? Expecting some kind of response. We'll work something out, that kind of thing. But in honesty, we have not done a lot of interviews, but the ones that we have had done, we've been fortunate enough that we were able to work everything out. I can't remember a single time that there has been any issues of having to have reschedule or anything like that. Obviously, no technical issues. And their interviews have come off real well and been an enjoyable experience. I kind of feel the same way y'all guys are. We're obviously not professionals here, so it's kind of, I kind of think of some questions. I'm going, okay, those are dumb. Those are dumb. But and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to ask any questions other than the setup question. Okay, what's your latest project? That kind of thing, and then let it go, and then y'all expect y'all to bail my ass out. But and during the conversation, during the interview, they'll say something. I'm going, oh, okay, well, let me ask this, and then I'll pop it in. I'm like, oh God, I feel good about that. So, and I guess that's part of that's part of it. That's how you get better. Is you're responding to what they're saying. You're obviously listening, and which something that's kind of a lost art on some interviews if you pay attention. So yeah, it would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, in all reality, I don't know if I could do it all the time. Just because that initial stress really does get to me.
Yeah.
So it's not like I could do interviews every week or anything, but yeah.
No.
They generally are fun when they happen.
We could probably do more. I'm definitely not saying weekly, but we could definitely do some more.
Yeah, sure.
We'll
We
see.
could.
Yeah.
And that may happen. We'll see.
Yep. It's a thought.
Yeah.
So I guess it's my turn for like favorite memories or experiences and all that. God, y'all have already brought us some great ones. Obviously, for Kayla episodes when we were doing the live stream, Mike and Les, when we did the con appearance, when we had a table kind of promoting the website and all that.
The one con appearance, right?
The one con appearance. Well, we were going to try to do more, but things happened.
Right.
With the cosplay contest going on in the back.
Oh God.
That was hilarious. That was
Yes,
friggin' loud too. That's what it was.
But we had the creator of Halloween Man next to us. That was fun.
Yeah. Yeah, and for those that are, I think those interviews are also on the website, the website too. We did this one show as the exhibitor. It was called StripCon, and it was for web comics primarily, but there was also comic strips and that kind of thing. So we had got a table, and we were going to record some interviews and all that. Les did a couple, and I did a couple. And yeah, at one of them, I guess it was our last one, Les was doing that. And they happened to be doing the cosplay costume contest. And it was literally right behind us. And of course, the microphone is cranked to 11. And you're going, holy crap, we can't hear. We're trying to do an interview here, and y'all are fucking it up. Please. Yeah, it was funny but irritating at the same time. So yeah, there was that.
Yep, that was a fun day. It was a very weird day, but it was a fun day.
It was a very weird day. Sadly, that con's no longer around. The hotel that was held is no longer around.
Good point.
So I don't know what to make of that, but there was a time I was asked to be part of a podcast panel for AllCon, and this happened. 20.
Whoa, that was a good one.
Yeah. Back in 2013, I think, which I was surprised. I can't even remember how I got invited. I believe it was a mutual friend of ours, Rick Gutierrez, who was running United States of Geekdom at that time, which sadly is no longer around. I think he's doing other projects now. But somehow I was on his radar, and he invited me to be part of that. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So yeah, that's my only panel, and that's fine. That's all right. That was a fun experience, but I felt like I don't know why I'm here when everybody else has obviously been doing this for a lot longer than me. But okay. So there was that. All the people we've met is I've made a lot of good friends along the way from the fellowship. All the people we've had on. Y'all mentioned Eddie. You mentioned doing interviews with Madeline, who's been on twice at least.
3 times.
3 times, okay. And I'm sure we'll have number 4, and we'll be happy to have her on.
Absolutely.
Eddie's been on a couple of times, and hint, hint, he may be on down the road. Nothing's been finalized, but well, who knows? Carl's been on, our good friend Carl Goad. Has been on a couple of times. It's all been a good movie. It really has. I mean, obviously there's bad with good, and then of course we obviously don't think about those bad times. But it's been. Honestly, I look back and go, like I said earlier, I can't believe that I've been doing this. But it's been a blast, and the reason why it's a blast is because of you guys. We've talked about this before on some of our pre-shows, and I think I've mentioned it on a podcast on an episode before. I think Mikey and I have addressed this before, that there are times that, especially when we were doing this on Tuesday nights, because we were recording on Tuesdays, and we're doing it on Sundays, where it's been a long day. You're going, okay, we got to record this, and it's going to be a couple hours, and you just don't really feel up to doing it. It's almost like it's a hassle. And then by the time we're finished recording and we're saying goodnight, and we're just like, damn, we could probably go another hour and be okay, because we're all pumped up. We're all kind of in good spirits because it's been fun. It's been fun.
It has, yeah.
And that's why we keep doing it, and that's kind of one of the things Mike has been saying pretty much since day one. It's like, hey, we're having fun. If anybody's listening to this, that's great. And judging by the numbers, y'all been listening. That we do appreciate that big time. But and obviously that comes across that we're having fun. Whether we know sounds like we know what we're talking about, or you agree with what we're saying, that's whatever. But if y'all are enjoying it, then we're happy, because we're definitely enjoying it. So thank you guys for making this fun.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, I'm actually meaning that for y'all.
Oh, that
the
too.
The three of y'all. But yeah, I mean, obviously to the listeners, yeah, definitely. I mean, I say it every week, and I'm not saying that just to say that. I mean it. We do appreciate your support. We do appreciate listening, and it's clear that you're listening, because we do get feedback, and we always want feedback. It doesn't matter if it's good, bad, or indifferent. We want to know. I mean, hey, it's bad. We're doing something that we need to improve. We need to know. Yeah.
Right. We're not going to know unless somebody tells us.
Right.
Yeah.
You brought up something before, and that is the casting calls that we do.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those can be mind-bending. They can really make you think. Some are just hysterical. Some are programs that I haven't seen, yet each one of us has got something to add to it. And that's been so much fun.
They have been. Yep.
I'm sorry?
I said they have been, yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
And what's amazing about it is, we'll say I don't have a character to play John Doe. And Liz will say, well, for...
You're a Hideki.
Yeah, every time.
Every time.
She'll say to play the role of Mr. Fleming, I have Tim Burton, and I'll go, there's my John Doe.
Yeah.
And I can revert that, or I can go, okay, now I see which direction you're going. And some of them are just too funny. Some of them are pretty on the point. there have been very few, but they're mainly mine that are just so friggin' off target.
Whatever. We all do that. Come on.
That's one I wish that Mike could just say, well, I'm going to exclude this guy.
And mine's always vanity. Can't act their way out of a paper sack, but he's cute, so he can do that.
There's somebody I should add to a movie is Vanity.
Yeah.
The thing about those, and I'm pretty sure we mention every time we do one. It's really interesting to, based off how y'all cast or I cast, how we perceive those characters. We see them in a certain way, so we figured, okay, it would be this actor. And it's kind of interesting because there's not one episode where y'all go, okay, for this character, I cast this actor. And I'm thinking, oh God, why did I not think of that person?
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't I think of that? That's such a great choice. I hadn't thought it's not just one time; it's several times. And I know where you're going, Les. I kind of do that with mine. There's times where I'm going, yeah, I'm not. This is what I see, but I'm not sure. And then I say it, and y'all go, oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, the whole I'm hearing y'all's picks, and I don't want to give mine anymore.
Yeah,
because I think it's dumb.
Yeah.
When before the show it was like, ooh, he's so clever, and then everyone's like, well, I'm not going to pick the obvious, and it's like, damn.
Sometimes it's too obvious, and you have to pick it. And sometimes you're like, okay, my challenge to myself is I'm not going to pick the obvious one here.
I'm awful with names, especially when we're pulling. I think like our Batman was like the 60s. It's like, oh man, that one guy who did that one commercial. What was his name?
That's when you start working on your Google skills.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was
definitely.
David Naughton.
Yeah. If people understood the amount of time that we put in behind the scene, like the casting calls, you can't put that show together in a day. You have to. I'm so thankful for Thomas, who keeps us all organized and gives us a plan. This is what we're doing, guys.
He gives us it's funny because he gives us the list like 2 months in advance. And then he has to give it to us the week before we record again, because none of us have paid any attention to it, except that it actually has been swirling around in our heads the whole time. Yeah. So it actually works out really well that way, because we see the list, we read the list 2 months ahead of time, and then we just kind of stop thinking about it. But it's in our heads and it's swirling around, and sometimes stuff's settling, coalescing, and then we see the list again a week or two beforehand, and we're like, oh, crap, okay, I do this, and I do this, I do this. By the time you get to that point, hell, I'm not going to lie, I can do it in less than half an hour now.
Oh, wow.
Not me. Because it's been rolling around in my head for a month or two.
Right.
True.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
See, I fall down the rabbit hole. Well, that wasn't the guy I was thinking of. Well, oh, wow, what did he play in again?
Well, I don't have ADD, all right?
I can't see that. But, on the opposite hand, I would have to say the worst show for me ever was when I watched the wrong movie. And even in the pre-show, when I was joking about Steve McQueen, none of you guys called me out. So I was like, I've watched it. I feel good because I actually have seen the whole movie.
Now, Liz, you say random shit all the time in the pre-show. I mean, that's why I didn't say anything. I was like, oh, she watched something this week. Okay, whatever. Never occurred to me that that's because you watched the wrong movie for this.
then you guys started talking about the Outer Limits, and I was like, wait, what?
It's the black
This
hole.
is-
See, you're still watching the wrong movie.
I'm so sorry.
Classic. That is too good.
Wow.
Yeah,
You
I
just
was
found the title of this
I
episode.
think so.
You're still watching the wrong movie.
Yep. Yeah, Mike, we gotta go with that.
Okay, I'll put it on the list.
that one was pretty bad.
but yeah, your point is, yeah. I'm not going to tell you what your point is.
I mean, as soon as Thomas gave the intro of what we were talking about, it was like, fuck. I can't even.
Wikipedia. Wikipedia. We can read it up.
That's what I did. My God. How did I do that? I still don't know how I did that. When you put the schedule out, I put it in my phone, so whenever it comes up, it reminds me a week before. Hey, idiot, you're talking about Desilu this week, So when the Blob came up, it was like, oh, I've got to watch the Blob. I even thought I saw it on our webpage, so it was like, okay, I got to watch the Blob.
We need to watch and discuss the Blob, though, sometime, just for fun.
Sure, I mean, since Liz has already seen it, yeah.
I think I even made you watch the Blob, too, by watching the wrong movie.
You totally did. I ended up, it wouldn't have occurred to me to watch the sequel if it hadn't have been for that. And I watched it, and I blame you, honestly, really, because it was awful.
So was the first one. Oh. But yeah, that was the one I felt lost, because it was like, wow.
That's because you really were lost.
I was.
See, it made the rest of the time when you normally feel lost, it made that all better, because you're like, oh no, wait, this is what lost really feels like. Okay, I'm okay then.
Like I said, after he gave the whole intro, it was like, man, I can't even fake this. So, hey guys, guess what I did?
That was priceless.
So now you always double, triple check, make sure.
Holy crap.
Wow. Yeah, it's getting pretty hairy over here, too.
I don't hear shit at my house, neither. I don't know what the deal is with that, but I got nothing. I feel like I'm missing out.
You can have mine.
And mine. That way you can double up.
I've got dogs shaking under the beds.
Yeah, it's all south of me.
And one other thing that we haven't mentioned is when we review the graphic novels. Those are always fun too. For the listeners, usually Thomas throws us out a list of, I think last time you gave us 10, 15 books we could choose from. And we kind of narrowed the list down. And there was some, like I said, I did reread Secret Wars. It wasn't too bad. So maybe I did judge it a little harshly. But it wasn't too bad. I still won't say it wasn't confusing. But I think out of those, The Study in Emerald, that's probably one of the best ones I hadn't heard of that we were able to, I was able to read and, So, yeah, I like those too.
Yeah, we haven't done one of those in a while. We may have to, if that's something y'all are interested in doing again, may have to come up with a list. It's been a while.
It has. I think we have later on down the list, we have some coming up that.
Yeah, I can think. I'm thinking there's at least one on the
Mm-hmm.
on the schedule already. But yeah, it might be good.
Yep.
Maybe we can come up with some more to put on there.
They said those are pretty interesting too, because a lot of times you guys will see something that I missed, or I didn't think of it that way, or or maybe I was confused in one area and you guys cleared it up. So those are always fun too.
Yep. Agreed.
So happy 10 years to the fellowship.
Yeah.
Yep. Yay!
Treat-
I'm late to the game, but I'm glad to join you.
Well, I'm glad that y'all have been a part of this journey, and you, dear listener, I'm glad that I appreciate y'all being part of the journey, and hope that y'all continue down this path.
Yeah. And for 10 years, hit us up on social media. Why don't you guys tell us what your favorites and not so favorites have been, or maybe in the next 10 years what you'd like to see.
We may even improve.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's not get crazy here.
Yeah, well.
Don't cross your fingers, yeah.
Yeah, hold your breath.
Well, let's start with y'all. What would y'all like to see? What would y'all like to? Is there anything in particular that maybe we did in the past we hadn't done in a while that we want to try to do again, or something like that? Or
Have a company picnic.
Ooh. I thought we'd do that once a month.
We can play volleyball. We can play kickball and three-legged race and all that stuff.
Team building exercises.
I still want to play three-legged kickball, but
yeah. Ooh, yeah. Challenge.
Honestly, Les, I thought you would want me to bring back comic craziness.
I'm sorry, you cut out a bit.
I said I'm surprised you didn't say you would want me to bring back comic craziness.
Why not?
We'll see.
We can do that.
Yeah.
And for those who are don't know what that means, in the early days of the website, I can't remember exactly how I got the idea. I think I saw one other genre website do something similar. It was essentially a NCAA tournament bracket, except for it was done, in this case I think it was like horror icons, whether they were slashers or monsters, that kind of thing. And I thought, okay, that's kind of cool. And so I wanted to do something kind of similar, but no one else was really doing it at the time. So I came up with Comic Craziness. Get it? March Madness, Comic Craziness. Okay. Yeah, I know. So I would actually put together a bracket of characters. I think the first year was typical Marvel versus DC. But the whole thing was like once a week I would throw it up on the website saying, okay, here's your brackets. And who do you think would win? But what we also requested was, why do you think that particular character would win in that fight? We didn't just want, okay, well, opponent A will beat opponent B, move on. We wanted, what was the thought process? Why do you think that? And something more than just, oh, this person's cool and this other character sucks, that kind of thing. And it was kind of interesting. We didn't get a lot of participation, but when we did, it was really cool reading the responses. And we did that for, I think the first year was 2011. I think we did 3 or 4 years, and then I basically stopped. But once again, it was kind of the burnout thing. I still have it. I can always bring it back, and maybe I will. We'll see.
It does sound like fun.
It really was, especially with the thought processes we got. We had some people that really thought this out, and thanked them profusely for what they were doing, because they were in on this from start to finish. We started out with, I want to say, 16 people.
Something
right?
It was maybe been like 16 matches. So basically 32 characters.
32. Okay.
I wasn't gonna go too because I mean, if we were doing this once a week and we actually started with 64 like the NCAA tournament, oh god, this would take forever.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, even doing it was starting off with 16 and then 8 and all that. That still took, because I tried to line it up to where it would actually go through March. But like I said before, there was not a lot when I was doing it. There was, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm a trailblazer here or anything. There was not a lot of websites or people doing that, and now it's kind of everybody kind of does it.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel bad that I had stopped, because it's like I could have said, because I could definitely say, hey, I've been doing this all this time, and look at me, and kind of puff my chest out, and but we'll see. It may come back. So any other things you would like to see maybe come back, or something you would like to see us do down the road? Or are we just going to keep on going the way we're doing, which is okay with me as well?
Well, we may be able to come up with something at a later date, yeah.
Yeah,
What we need to do is we need to quit having thunderstorms in the middle of recording session.
Right.
Yeah.
It hadn't rained all
Wasn't
damn
it-
day out here.
Oh, it's same here. Well, it did early this morning here, but early this morning, so
It was saving up for us.
I guess.
And wasn't it back in October where like every show we recorded, it was like thunderstorm,
Yeah. Which is very fitting for October.
tornado.
But yeah.
October is when we were having all the tornadoes here too. So
Yeah. We
Free sound effect.
We only had to take a half-hour break in the middle of a recording session because Les had to go climb in the bathtub.
right.
Yeah.
The tornado was on the ground.
So
That was exciting. Let's
That
not not do that one again.
yeah.
We don't want those anymore.
I was afeared of the flying monkeys.
They're scary, man.
Oh. It's when like 2 blocks over, it was all tore up over here.
Alrighty. Well, on that note, I once again say it's been a fun ride so far, and I can't wait to see what lies ahead of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, on that note, we're going to take a quick break and come back with our weekly picks. And we're back. It is time for weekly picks, and leading off is Les.
Thank you. Number one. I'm going to bring you Hank Steiner, Monster Detective number 1. This is put out by Source Point Press, and it's a new series starring Hank Steiner, Monster Detective. The story is that a monster dying would normally not be looked into by the authorities, but that's different when Hank Steiner shows up to investigate. The investigator gets caught up in a cover-up involving a local gang of goblin thugs and vampire floozies. So you can see that this is going to be a different twist on a detective novel. And I'm ready for this because they don't say it, but it sure looks like it's going to be a funny book to read.
It does sound good.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, Liz.
All right, for my first pick, I have a book called Bedtime Stories for Impressionable Children. This is actually the second one that they've done. It's kind of a collection. They call him the world's most awkward daycare worker. And this is his set of stories that he's telling to the kids. There's usually about 3 or 4 stories. Some of them have kind of got a horror twist. Some of them is just kind of a funny twist to them. But first one was really good. I expect the second one to be even better. What drew me to this book this time, though, is one of the covers has it's an orange UFO. And I swear to God, not too far from here, they have the exact same UFO out in Roy City. And it's orange. It's just like that. So I don't know. That story is called a Redneck Aliens cover. So I'm kind of curious if that's where they got the inspiration for that one from. But it looks kind of interesting. Like I said, usually the last one was good. The stories were not appropriate for children, but they were definitely funny. So pick this one up.
Okay, and who put that one out? Who's putting that one out?
American Mythology is.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. That does sound like fun. Inappropriate things for children is always
Right.
interesting.
Alrighty. Let's see. Who is next?
Me?
Okay, yeah, you. Mike.
Alrighty. My first pick is from Source Point Press. I am picking The Fuhrer and the Tramp, #1. This is the first of a 5-issue series. And this is interesting to me because honestly, the description that we have here sounds not really that far off of how I understood the whole story to really have happened in history. And the deal is that mega movie star Charlie Chaplin, back in the day, is given an opportunity to make a movie about Adolf Hitler and his rise to power, and this is actually like while it's happening. And if you're familiar with the film The Great Dictator, that it really happened. He really made the movie, and so I am curious to see, one, how creative this gets with history, and two, I mean honestly, more about the history of how this film got made and the whole process that Chaplin, who did mostly like comedies. He didn't really get into the whole political arena very often. So this is going to be a really interesting read, I think.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, I was on board for this one too.
Alrighty. I'm next, and for my first choice, it's a new series from IDW Publishing called Transformers vs. Terminator. And what kind of caught my attention on this is it takes place in 1984. And let me just read the synopsis here. When a deadly race of machines emerge from another time, will a robotic guardian be able to protect the Earth from a dire future? Or will the T-800 fail in his mission to prevent the world from becoming a plaything to the Decepticons? I went, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting. So instead of what you would think would be the Autobots dealing with the Terminators, it's going to be the Terminators dealing with the Decepticons. I'm like, that's kind of an interesting approach.
Nice twist.
Mhm.
Yes.
It is.
So I'm definitely interested in that.
Cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
That does sound good.
Alrighty, Les, you're next.
Number 5. From DC Comics comes From Beyond the Unknown. It's a giant 100-page comic book. In this, you have 3 new stories. You have 6 stories total. And involved in this are Green Lantern, Kamandi, the Legion of Superheroes, Adam Strange, Batman, and Superman. So just the grouping here and the fact that it's one of the 100-page, which will go for $5 and give you 6 stories, I think it's great. It's fun. And I want to try this one out just to personally to cover the Superman Adam Strange reprint story.
Sounds good.
Yep, definitely.
Yep, another fun twist.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, Liz.
All right. For my second pick, this is from Source Point Press called The Rejected. Long is the Way. This I'm taking it is a second arc off the first book, which was actually a graphic novel that originally was an exclusive to a con, but they reran it and everything else. But it follows a little boy named Billy who's bullied, he's, pushed around, and all this little boy wants is a family, which never happened for him. So through all of this pain and everything else, he winds up meeting Mr. Teeth. And Mr. Teeth takes him in, gives him a family, and offers him protection. But what Billy didn't know at the time, now this is the first one, what Billy didn't know is that all of that came at a price. So this story actually picks up that they're on their way through hell. So apparently Billy had did something in the first book, which I'm going to make you read to find out what he did, which is leading him into hell now to kind of correct his, what he did in the first book. But it's pretty interesting because it kind of has the same thing that everything comes at a price, even with your anger and how bad you think you want something, sometimes that's not always the right answer. And in this story, it looks like even Mr. Teeth will learn that one. So it should be pretty interesting. Like I said, the first one was a really good read, so I'm very excited to see exactly where this one picks up and if they make it through hell or not.
Nice.
Yep.
That sounds
Very nice.
So it is a pretty good little story.
Yeah.
cool.
Alrighty, Mike.
Okay, my second choice is from Zenoscope. And I'm picking Shang, number 1. This ought to be interesting. We are finally getting a little bit of backstory on Shang, who, if you're not aware, is kind of one of the... He's kind of a mentor type to the Grimm Fairy Tales universe. He's kind of in the background most of the time. It'll be fun to see him kind of in a foreground role, and to see him maybe kick a little butt and to kind of see how he got to that point where he got to be like the mentor teacher type. He's a fun character, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It does sound good.
Alrighty, and I'm next, and for my second choice, I'm going with I guess that's going to be a new series. Well, I don't know if it's a mini-series or it's a one-shot. It's from American Mythology Productions. It's called Zorro Timeless Tales. And these are stories that were originally published in France. So I believe these are the first time they're been transcribed and printed here in America. And I love Zorro. I think Zorro is a really cool character. So I definitely want to check this book out. Should be fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep. Zorro is always a good read.
Yep. Alrighty. Any special shout-outs this week?
An honorable mention first?
Oh, yeah, honorable mention. Yeah, how about that?
The honorable mention I have here is Justice League of America, The Nail. This is a complete collection, a trade paperback, of the two series that DC ran. One called Justice League of America, The Nail, and the second was Justice League of America, Another Nail. In this program, it is the fact that a nail flattened the tire of the Kent's vehicle and thus prevents them from discovering the small rocket ship and an alien baby. Because of that, the world's greatest hero never comes to be. So without Superman, you have Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Aquaman, The Atom, Green Lantern, and others having to battle public and interpersonal distrust as they attempt to work together. To me, this was a monumental series that DC did, and I'm so glad now that they are doing a combination and reissuing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a great read. I remember enjoying the heck out of the first one. I don't remember the second one as much, but here's the opportunity to check it out. Refresh my memory.
Yeah. I don't remember this line at all. So I'm kind of glad they did it because I totally missed this one. And it's kind of like, wow, a world without Superman? Huh.
Yep. Sounds like a big deal.
It does. I'm definitely picking that one up.
Okay. Now, any special mentions or shout-outs this week?
No.
No, I don't think so.
No, not here.
Not that I know of.
Okay. We'll go ahead and go to our regular shout-outs. First off, want to thank Pop Goes Culture Podcast Network for allowing us to be a part of a great group of fellow podcasts. Definitely recommend you check them out. There will be a link in our show notes. And obviously want to thank our brother and sister podcasters on Twitter, known as Podern Family, for spreading the word of the fellowship. We want you to go check out their fine work as well. And the easiest way to do that is do a search, hashtag Podern Family, one word, and just scroll through, and whatever catches your attention, by all means, click on that link, download that episode, and hope you have a good time listening. So thank you guys for your support as always. Also want to thank Mandy and Murders for supplying the music for our podcast. Go check out their fine work. We'll have a link in the show notes as well. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We appreciate your support as always. We would love to hear from you. Any kind of feedback, questions, comment, complaint, suggestions, observations, what have you. Please let us know. Several ways you can do that. One is our email address, which is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Or you can go to the website, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, and go to the About Us page. And there's a contact form that you can fill out there. You can follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, the Fellowship of the Geeks, and you can send us a message that way if you'd like. We're obviously on Twitter, @Fellowship Geeks. Please follow us there. If you like to follow our personal Twitter's account, you can do that. Mike can be found @MikeyGeek. Liz can be found @LN_geek. And I can be found @TomTCGeek. And wherever you download and listen to our episodes, if you could please spend a couple of moments to rate and review our show, it would be greatly appreciated. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate you listening.
Thank you for listening, everybody. We do appreciate your support as always. And until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter @FellowshipGeeks. Until next time,